Good morning, everyone. I request everyone to be please seated, and may I request all our dignitaries to please come up on the stage. Thank you. I would like to call Mr. Prashant Girbane, who is Honorary Director of PIC, for a formal welcome speech. Thank you, sir.
Before I begin, these two usual requests, one on the smartphones, I'll check my own. And the second, that like any other PIC program, A, it starts on time, and B, there are no penalties for clapping. If you feel like clapping at any point in time, you do clap. That's not to get one clap for myself in the rest of the program. Wow, what an honor it is to be here in this hall today itself, in this auditorium today. What an occasion it is. The whole of Pune is abuzz with this thing for the last few days. You all are aware of what I'm talking about. So let's give a huge round of applause, first of all, for our Chief Guest, General Naramne, who is here. Thank you. An honor it is for me to introduce the dignitaries on the dais. While many of you are aware about them, Lieutenant General Manoj Mukund Naravne, General Naravne, PVSM, AVSM, SM, VSM, ADC, is an Indian Army General and the 27th Chief of Army Staff Designate. He is currently 40th Vice Chief of Army Staff of the Indian Army. He assumed the office of VCOAS on 1st September 2019, following the retirement of Lieutenant General Devraj Anbu. On 16 December 2019, he was appointed as the next Chief of Army Staff of the Indian Army and will assume office from 1st January 2020 after General B.P. Rawat completes his term. Now, the next line, you all are aware, General Sir has a special connection with Pune, as not only he pursued his course from NDA, but he was born in Pune and has studied in Nan Prabodhani School. Prior to his appointment as VCOS, he was GOCNC Eastern Command, and before that, GOCNC RTRAC Army Training Command. We also have with us Mr. V. Balachandran. Mr. Balachandran is an Indian National Security Intelligence Specialist and former IPS officer who served 17 years in state of Maharashtra and 19 years in Foreign Intelligence Service. He retired as Special Secretary, Cabinet Secretariat, Government of India in 1995 and is now based in Mumbai. He has authored 3 books and published more than 600 columns on security and strategic subjects in Indian and foreign publications. Many of you have interacted with Mr. Jayant Umranikar in Pune. Mr. Jayant Umranikar joined IPS in 1973. He was deputed to Cabinet Secretariat and later to Foreign Service. He represented India in various multilateral organizations. He returned to Maharashtra in 2001 and served as Police Commissioner in this very city in Pune, as well as in Nagpur. Shri Umranikar sir headed Anti-Naxalite Operations State CID and retired in 2009 as DGP Maharashtra with Special Operations. He was decorated with Police Medal and President's Medal for distinguished services. He is also felicitated by various organizations. He has authored many books and articles. His book, Police Reforms in India, is much talked about and studied by students and practitioners of national security. Our friend and the author of the book, Shri Nitin Gokhale. Shri Nitin Gokhale is a renowned author, strategic affairs analyst, media trainer, and founder of a specialized website, bharatshakti.in, that's focused on supporting and encouraging India's quest for self-reliance in defense. After working for more than 30-odd years, Mr. Gokhale started this website and also works on SNI, Mr. Nitin Gokhale has been visiting faculty at almost all top Indian military institutions in India, including National Defense College, the Army, Navy, and Air Force War Colleges, the Defense Services Staff College, and College of Defense Management. Last year, he was invited by US Department of Defense to attend 40th Advanced Security Cooperation course in Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies. He was one of the only around 100 professionals invited from 40 plus countries. Mr. Nitin Gokhale and Pune also has a connection, not just that he was born here. He is a member of a very prestigious think tank based in Pune. You could guess that. Thanks to that, we have had some interesting programs. Mr. Gokhale, we wish that you continue to write many, many books, because among the 7-8 books that you wrote, 2 of them were published in PIC and the third one is being published in PIC. The first one that was published, we had the honor of Mr. Manohar Parrikar sir coming and launching that book, coming and releasing that book. The second one that was published here, it was very much in this hall, at this place, where COA General Rawat Saab came and he released the book. It's the third one, and we have honor of having General Naravne sir and the other dignitaries on the dais to come and release the book. So, and no wonder that in our own self-interest of Pune and PIC, we request you to continue to write these books, Nitin. Couple of minutes just on PIC, and we'll begin the program. Pune, some of you are aware, as you can see the members of PIC here, but for the benefit of others, Pune International Center is a think tank established in 2011 in Pune. While we have many think tanks in Delhi and Mumbai, and that's very, very good and great, Punekars felt the need that we should also have a think tank in Pune so that discussions on national and international matters happen beyond Delhi and Mumbai as well. Over the last 8.5 years, it has taken very good shape. More than 450 members, more than 60 national institutions that are member of PIC. PIC organizes many, many programs, and there are 4 or 5 tracks that we work on. There is a track of energy, environment, and climate change. There's a track we have on social innovation. There is a 3rd track on governance and urbanization. There's a 4th track on science and technology. Very importantly, there is a 5th track on national security. Over the last 5-6 years, thanks to leadership of Air Marshal Gokhale, General Shami Mehta, General Patnankar, and there are many of these officers from the national security apparatus who have been working and shaping up the Pune dialogue on national security. We do this once a year, and we have a great help from GOCNC Southern Command as well as the commandant of NDA, who also participate in these. We publish many policy papers as a think tank, and we organize many programs. Some of those are about book launches, and what we are here today is to launch the book. You're aware of what it is, and there'll be a lot that will be talked about, so I'm not going to touch it. With that, I'm going to leave it to my colleague to take the proceedings of the program further with one huge round of applause once again to welcome General Naravne sir.
Thank you, Prashant sir. Wow. It's really difficult to be charming after he has spoken, but I'll try. So let's begin with our program. May I request my colleague Pooja to get the books here so that we can formally ask our guests to release the book. Thank you all. May I request Mr. Jayant Umranikar sir to please give his opening remarks.
General Naravne, my previous boss, Mr. Balchandran, my friend Nitin Gokhale, and Prashant. Well, I feel a bit inadequate being a chairman at a function where Mr. Balchandran has been called as guest of honor. Before I talk about the book and Mr. KAO, I must explain why I've been called here. You must have heard in my introduction that I was in a place called Cabinet Secretariat. Well, that's a misnomer for R&AW. I was SP Satara in 78. In 79, I was called to R&AW, and I have very strong suspicions that Mr. Balchandran was responsible for that. I was interviewed by Mr. Govindarajan, who was JS at that time, the father of Raghuram Rajan, who is probably better known nowadays. I was chosen for my language ability. I spent my childhood in Moscow. My parents were posted there, so I speak Russian like a Russian. When I joined Cabinet Secretariat, because of my language ability, I was immediately posted to China branch. And then there was a joint director called Mr. Varti, who realized that probably something amiss. So I was shifted to what was known as IC, International Communism Branch. The first question that the establishment asked me, who is your relative in this organization? So I said, I'm sorry, sir. I said, Mr. Balchandran. Without taking his permission. And that's how the journey began. 22 years I spent in this organization. Unfortunately, I never got near Moscow. And the nearest I was when Yevgeny Primakov came to Moscow on a secret visit, which is not so secret now. 2 books have mentioned, so I'm mentioning that I was his liaison officer. But all that I remember of that visit is that I was given room that was next to Primakov. He was in a suite. And the Russians from the embassy came there around 8 o'clock. And they kept on drinking till 3 o'clock in the morning. I joined them for whiskey. When that was over, they took out their vodka and said, this is a traditional Russian drink. And it was ura, ura, ura all the time. And they could thumb the table and sing Russian songs. That kept me awake till 3 o'clock. 6 o'clock in the morning, Primakov at my door, let's go for a walk. So I took him around. 9 o'clock, this man was briefing our Prime Minister on what was then known as the strategic triangle between India, China and Russia. So what I'm saying is, because of this organization, I came across quite a few amazing personalities in my life. Out of 22 years, I was only 3 years in the headquarters. And the rest were all postings on operational desks. So whatever I heard about Mr. KAO was basically second hand, third hand. I was too junior at that time. But Mr. KAO, of course, he was a very distant but very, I would say, imposing figure for me. He was a legend. It was like Mount Everest, you have just sort of entered Himalayan ranges and you see that peak and wonder whether you would ever not reach, but at least aspire to reach there. I joined when the organization was going through some very difficult time. 79, as Mr. Balchandran will recollect. Things were not as that stable. In the next year, we also had a strike in intelligence organization. In the first and the last, I hope. So we went through some very difficult times in those days, but we had some very outstanding seniors to take care of the organization. Mr. Santuk, Gary Saxena, A.N. Verma, all these people they just kept on concentrating and focusing on important things and sort of ignoring the things and the pinpricks that were caused by various politicians, including the directive to scale down the organization and things like that. I met Mr. Kao only once, and that also when I was posted at a border state, and he called me for some discussion on operations. Well, I was overawed when I went to see him, and then I found that he was such a gentle person that anybody would sort of open up in front of him. He make you feel so comfortable when he was around, although he was a towering figure. At that time, he was special advisor. His last tenure with the government, 81-83. We had some discussion. I was offered tea. I can't divulge what we discussed, but I'm sure the advice that he gave on that issue to the government would have carried weight, and probably that saved the neighboring state, the border state from a big trouble later on. Now about the book. Before I turn to that, I would like to refer to another book written by, again, one of my bosses in high-grade operations, Mr. B. Raman. And that book probably sums up what Mr. Santuk was. I would like to just read out what he said about him. Not Santuk, Mr. Kao. He said, he was a man of tremendous vision, but was not uniformly successful in choosing the right men and women to give shape to his vision. His humility and mental generosity occasionally rendered him blind to faults of those around him. He trusted men and women to a fault, little realizing that some of those trusted by him were not worthy of it. Despite all this, no knowledgeable person can dispute that he strode elegantly, effortlessly, and scintillatingly in the intelligence world of his time. In the Indian intelligence world of yesterday's, Kao was first. The rest were nowhere. I will repeat that. Kao was first. The rest were nowhere. He was a legend and deserved to be. And then he gives Mr. Kao's accomplishments. The triumph of 1971, India's role in the great game in Afghanistan, India's assistance to the newly independent African countries in building up their intelligence and security setups, India's covert assistance to ANC and apartheid in South Africa, and to the independence movement in Namibia, the happy denouement of Sikkim and Nagaland in the 70s and in Mizoram in the 1980s. Kao was there in the midst of all, active but unseen. And then he says, it's a pity that there is no well-researched and well-documented record of Mr. Kao's monumental role. And this is where I think my friend Nitin comes in. I must thank Nitin for his effort in piecing together some of the achievements of Mr. Kao. For us, Mr. Kao was an institution. Nitin has also brought out the human angle and the individual that Mr. Kao was. When you read first chapters of his book, what kind of childhood he had, what kind of difficulties he faced in life, what it was serving under the British, how the things changed for him with the changes in the political hierarchy, and the kind of ups and downs he had in life. And yet, I must say, he is one person who will always be remembered in the world of intelligence. And really, without underestimating anybody else who has been in R&AW, I would say that very difficult to match the kind of talent the kind of vision, the kind of enterprise Mr. KAO exhibited in starting this organization. And let me assure you, what keeps you in this organization in spite of all the difficulties is the work. I remember my first days in International Communism desk when we were taught how to study Soviet Union. Because of my ability, I could read Pravda and Izvestia, the Russian newspapers. Pravda in Russian means truth and Izvestia means news. So the general saying was that there is no truth in Pravda and there is no news in Izvestia. But we were taught how to read the speeches of Brezhnev, for example, and who is standing next to him on the Lenin mausoleum, who is to the left, who is to the right, who is third, who is fourth. All these things mattered. After the paragraph of speech, in inverted commas, it would be written, applause, applause. So, if you find that there are 3 applauses, it meant that the person is rising in the hierarchy. This was known as Kremlinology in those days. As I said, the work was extremely interesting. And I had a few postings abroad also. One of them was in Africa. And then came our neighboring state, where I spent nearly 4.5 years. And I think headquarters withdrew me only because they thought I might apply for citizenship by naturalization. But the work again was fascinating. And I had my last posting in Vienna, where I worked for the international organizations also. That's when the nuclear testing, first by India and then by Pakistan, took place. So overall, it's been a very interesting journey for me. And I must say, whatever I have achieved in life, I owe to this organization and to the person who created this organization, Mr. KAO. I won't take more time. There are very distinguished persons who are going to interact with you. I think Nitin and Mr. Balchandran are going to be the next in line to discuss the book. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think for many of us, it's very interesting to hear the institution builder, as well as many of you who kind of contributed in building that institution. Because this is about the book, what we're going to do is this: request the author, Mr. Nitin Gokhale, to do a conversation with our guest of honor, Mr. Balachandran, so that they could bring out some of the facets of what's there in the book. Of course, for more, you'll have to read the book, but the best that they could, look forward to hear from you, Nitin.
Thank you, Prashant. Thank you, Punekars and Pune International Center for once again organizing this. Although I am a member, I shouldn't be thanking the same organization, but nevertheless, to organize this on a Saturday morning and for so many people to come here, the hall is overflowing. Like it happened in Delhi just about a week ago, exactly a week ago. In fact, last Friday we did the first launch in Delhi. And it is not because I have written this book, it is because of this personality. In fact, yesterday I was speaking to one of the leading industrialists in Maharashtra, and when he saw the book, when he saw the photograph, he asked me, did he have a parent who was a foreigner, a white man or a white woman? I said, no. He was a Kashmiri who never stayed in Kashmir, Mr. KAO. Very handsome, but if you read the book, in his childhood, he was obese. He was 106 kgs at one point in time at the age of 16. From there, you see this handsome man which has come, and he's written it in his own words. So, before I turn to Mr. Balachandran, who knew him personally, who worked with him closely, I just want to say this is my 7th book. And most of the books have been on insurgencies, wars, military history. This is the first biography that I've done of a very prominent personality, although not very well known for the general public. Actually, there's a mystique about him which is still there, and that's why nobody could write about him. And he himself was a very private man, as Mr. Balachandran would probably tell us. But this was my toughest book to write. One, there was not a self-imposed but a imposed deadline on me because his 100 years, he would have been 100 in 2018, and his birthday is 21st September 20, I mean, he was born in 1918, 21st September. So the organization, the R&AW, it's always R&AW, that is what he used to insist. Research and Analysis Wing, not raw. It's always R&AW. So small little things that he used to insist upon, I came across from different people, all these idiosyncrasies that he had, and very particular about things that he wanted to write or mention. So when it was told to me in July, mid-July this year, that we need this book by 21st September, it left me with just 65 days to complete this book, and I must say that it was a tough challenge, but because of the cooperation of almost everyone who was involved in this book, I could get this done. So I want to put this on record, that my publishers, my colleagues, of course my family, they of course give it up on me in those 2-3 months when I am intensely working on this for 12-13 hours a day. My wife, my children, they always do this, support me fully. But this, I must say, was a very tough book to W. So I just want to bring out some aspects of Mr. KAO and the organization in the process. Can I turn to you, sir, and ask you, you've interacted with Mr. KAO very closely. You've done some wonderful operations and wonderful, I would say, some schemes, I would say, of getting things done for the nation. What was he like a person? I mean, I know Mr. Umranikar has just mentioned, but since you knew him personally, can we have it from you that what was he like a person?
Nitin, I must say that I came quite close to him when he was not in power. That is, I written his obituary, one full-page color publication in Asian Age, Sunday Asian Age, in 2003. That is the first year of his death. So I made it very clear that I came to know him when he was not in power. And in fact, when he was in power, when I joined the organization, like Jayant, because I recommended him later, but I not regretted it at all. Because he has done such wonderful work, and as he mentioned, when I joined the organization, I was in a high-profile post in Mumbai, and that was the Deputy Commissioner of Special Branch, which controlled all facets of working in Mumbai. I was known, my name used to come every day in newspapers, etc. Suddenly, I was told that I have to become anonymous. I said, how is it going to be? That is my first problem.
Which is the first requirement of being in the R&AW.
Yeah. After being a very high-profile officer, I had to go underground. Once I remember Sharad Pawar met me he was a junior minister when I was there. He met me, "Tumhi ata kuthe hai? Disatas nahi." So I said, I'm here in Mumbai, but you won't see me, that's all. Anyway, coming back to this, at that time, as Jayan said, he was more heard of than seen, even for the people like me in the organization. And I remember I had to wait for about 3 days. I was wearing my suit and then sitting there in summer in Delhi. In those days, he had an office, impressive office in South Block. And he was very kind after 3 days when I met him. Later in 1977, when he had to submit resignation after it was a staged incident in the Prime Minister's office. Mr. KAO himself told me about this humiliation. Because at that time there was a demand that Raw should be wound up, like Savak of Shah of Iran. It was a private police of Mrs. Indira Gandhi to keep watch on all politicians. So there were many people when Janata government came to power, they wanted to wind up RAW. And incidentally, Sanjay Gandhi didn't have a good opinion about RAW. He started calling it as relations and acquaintances wing. But I was not Mr. Kao's relation, nor was Jayant. So he had a. It's not only the opposition people who had a bad opinion about RAW, but also the Prime Minister's own son. Anyway, so then what happened was that Mr. Kao, after the new Prime Minister took over, he went to call on him. When he was sitting there, he found a man who looked like a politician also sitting. So when Mr. Kao was ushered in, this man also came in. Now Kao, throughout his life, has only briefed the Prime Minister alone.
One-on-one.
One-on-one. Nobody, not even the secretary, nobody will be there. So he was quite shocked. Before Mr. Kao and Morarji Desai was sitting like, immobile and expressionless.
Stiff.
Yeah. And before he could open his mouth, this man started a tirade against him. Saab, this is the man who brought all the emergency atrocities and, for the next 20 minutes. And Morarji would not say a word. So Mr. Kao got up and said, "Sir, I think, thank you very much for the interview." And he walked out and submitted a resignation. Afterwards, I started knowing him from that moment onwards. Then various things happened and ultimately Mr. Sandu was chosen as the chief of RAW.
Yeah.
And there was a real threat to wind up RAW. That I will come to that later. Let me just talk about how he was.
Yes.
He was a very private person. Unlike his number two at that time, Mr. Shankar Nair, who loved to meet party,
He was flamboyant. Mr.
Yeah,
Shankar,
flamboyant.
they were complete
Flamboyant.
opposite. I've
Whereas
mentioned this in the thing.
whereas this man was totally private. He liked quiet life. He never, even at the height of his power, he never went for a single embassy parties. You will not find him socializing at all. He was a private person, work, and his immediate circle of, his officers or whatever it is, or family members, that's all. And extremely, as Jayant said, extremely warm. I wrote at that time, I could never imagine the kind man behind the aura of power and, attached to his office that I more heard of than BC. That was he.
That's right. But, in fact, anybody I've spoken to, be it the family members, be it his juniors, they've all spoken about 2 or 3 very distinct characteristics that he had. One was he was very meticulous in writing or even speaking, not a word out of place. And also he liked his officers to be very thorough.
Absolutely.
In fact, Mr. Vikram Sood, another former R&AW chief who was part of the discussion in Delhi, has mentioned, and I've actually, I must again say this on record before I proceed, that Mr. Balachandran was the one who sort of guided me through this book. He shared his private correspondence with Mr. Kao post his retirement, post his Mr. Balachandran's retirement, where you can get a glimpse of the thought process that Mr. Kao had in the late 1990s, 4 or 5 years before he passed away in 2002. And, he has phenomenal memory, Mr. Balachandran. He's written very detailed books on one Asian Nambiar. I recommend that book for anyone who's interested in looking at how R&AW functions and how different people help national security. But that notwithstanding, Mr. Kao was also very, like he said, very private, but he was very stylish. He loved to dress up, as you can see in this. And there are several photographs that I have in the book, 16 photographs actually. People said he was only photographed twice, which is not correct. He was photographed a number of times, but those photographs were not public. So we made them public. This book also has, I'm just not trying to pitch the book because anyway the books are available outside if you are interested in buying them. But several new things that are there in this book is his original appointment letter issued from London in 1940. He was the Indian police batch of 1940. Then in 1947, at the dawn of independence, 16 Indian police officers, including Mr. Shankaran Nair, Mr. Rustamji, and others, I don't remember the name, they pledged their, sort of loyalties to the newly independent India. And that pledge is also included in this book. And there are several other photographs there. So the idea behind this book was to bring out the personality of Mr. KAO, as well as give some glimpses, whichever is possible, without compromising security or without compromising the R&AW's style of working. The idea was to bring this book out for that, because he deserved this book more than anything else. Mr. KAO deserved this book. And therefore, I would just thank the people who initiated this project in the R&AW, and of course my publisher Bloomsbury for doing what they have done. But coming back to his style of working, sir, it is also said that when he was working with people in the 1971 operations, which you were not there in R&AW, but whatever I have seen, read, heard from people, he had the knack of picking the right man for the right job. And 71 is a classic example where he had two key personalities, Mr. P.N. Banerjee alias Nath Babu, who had a household presence in Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's house in the run-up to the 71 operations in Bangladesh, and Mr. S.S. Uban, Major General S.S. Uban, who had headed at that point in time an ultra-secretive organization called Special Frontier Force. Special Frontier Force is manned by mostly Tibetans and are designed to go behind the enemy lines in Tibet and China. And that force and Mr. Nath or Mr. Banerjee actually were his key personalities in the 71 operations. So that knack he had, would you agree on that?
Yeah. You see, this before I branch out into something, let me compliment you. I mean, when Nitin told me that he's doing the work, I was immensely happy, because I know him, that he's such a balanced, let me say that before he became a security specialist, he was a good journalist. His reporting, I used to watch him on NDTV, very balanced, without excitement. I thought that was the best person to write. Otherwise, the same material, whatever you have got, anybody could have exaggerated and made into a Hollywood or Bollywood movie. No. So that is why in my review, which will come very shortly in Outlook Weekly, I said, I know Mr. KAO very well. I used to know him. And had he been alive, he would have been very happy with your way you are presented.
Thank you.
Now, one of the, and I think you have done a great service, because a number of incorrect facts about RAW have come in several books which have been bestsellers, but never the facts. Now, the painstaking way you have collected all the photographs, the letters, and other things within a matter of 2 months or 3 months, and produce a book which is quite modest, saying that this is not the complete file. This is a part of 71 operations. The role of intelligence have still not been declassified. Mr. KAO himself said that till 2025 should not be released. That he was such a stickler about the propriety of maintaining official intelligence. You can't leave it and then leak it to the press, etc. So within the constraints, there are so many facts about, especially about this, that Kashmir Prince's investigation, and also his posting in Ghana where he founded that foreign intelligence. All these things were not known even to me, whom I claim that I used to know him very well. Now, about his way of conversation, you see, I mentioned only one incident which I told you, and then you have mentioned the book also. In 1975, we had an Apex police conference in Delhi, which will be addressed by the Prime Minister first day, and then other things. In those days, it was called DIG-CID conference. Now it has become DG's conference. So I was also invited, although I was not.
Which incidentally happened in Pune, sir, just earlier this month, the DG's conference.
DG's conference, those days, the first day was the tea with the Prime Minister and then she will address. And the last day, the police officer, I was in the Bombay police in those days. Last day was, will we go to RAW and then get a briefing. So at that time, there was a very clever, he thought he was very clever, a DIG from Madhya Pradesh who asked a question because just a few months ago, Mujibur Rahman was assassinated. And there was a lot of news items saying that that's a slap on the face of KAO. He did not know about it and all that. So we asked that question, sir, having been caught napping or something to that effect, very offensive. Now, no uniformed service will tolerate that happening. That was the time when Mr. KAO was the height of his power and he could have ticked off that officer. He said, is it true that you are caught napping before the assassination of Mujibur Rahman? And we were all, we thought that really speaking, there will be a thunder will come from Mr. KAO. He ignored it. And then he allowed the next man to ask a question. Then, he answered that man first and then turned to so-and-so. I can assure you that we were not surprised at the developments in Bangladesh. That's all. Nothing else, nothing more. So this understatement was his quality of conversation in any conference, etc. Yeah. So that shows that, number one, he did not throw his rank and then silence a junior. He allowed him to speak. Obviously, he showed his displeasure in a way that he didn't answer. He asked the other person to answer and then came to him and said, we were not surprised. It's a fact. Later events will say, I don't know whether in your research you have come to know about it. Sir. He had traveled all the way to warn Bangladesh president, saying that there is a conspiracy brewing. We want to beef up your security. But he said, no, Mr. Secretary, please tell your Prime Minister that I am quite secure now. And within a few days came the assassination.
In fact, I do mention this in the book, sir. Perhaps, it's not as prominent as it should be. Mr. KAO never gave interviews, was never pally with the press, which probably, which is how it should be for intelligence services. And the only interview he gave on tape, on record, surprisingly was to Pupul Jaikar, who was Mrs. Indira Gandhi's close friend at one point in time. And she wrote this interview, she transcribed it and put it there. So Pupul Jaikar quotes Mr. KAO that he did go at the, he first reported the threats to Mujibur Rahman to Indira Gandhi, who said, you should travel to Dhaka and tell Mujibur Rahman that your life is under imminent threat. So he did go there, she mentions in that interview, and he said he took him out to the garden, the Bangabandhu, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and said that you are under threat by your own military officers, young military officers. And he said, well, they don't worry, they're my children, they're all people who are looking up to me, they revere me, nobody's going to kill me. He dismissed it and came back. Then Mr. KAO had no other way to do anything else but to come back. And sure enough, within the next 10 days, I think on 15th of August, 1975, Mujibur Rahman and his almost entire family, except Sheikh Hasina, who is now the Prime Minister there, was killed. There's a fallout of that assassination during emergency, and Mrs. Gandhi apparently had not asked R&AW whether emergency should be imposed or not. And then she got paranoid, Mrs. Indira Gandhi got paranoid, because Mujibur Rahman's young 8-year-old son, named after Bertrand Russell, as Russell, was also killed in that coup, which was done by some young army officers in Bangladesh. She got paranoid that Rahul Gandhi, who was then 7-8 years old, may face a threat from her enemies in India. And she said this to Pupul Jaikar, which I brought it in. Now, I just want to say this, not to boast or not to trumpet my own this thing. What is the role of a journalist is something that needs to be understood. if this book was given to, say, a former police officer, R&AW officer, certainly they would have had more access because they were cleared for security. They would have got files, classified files from the organization, whatever they would have done. But what they could not have done, and I'm saying this with reasonable certainty, is to look for information elsewhere. I remembered when I started looking for this incident of Mujibur Rahman's assassination, I remembered that I had read this somewhere. So I went through my own library, looked at Pupul Jaikar's book, and sure enough, it was there, that she had mentioned that this interview was done on tape with Mr. KAO, and this book was published in 1993. So, most people today will not even know about Pupul Jaikar. So that is where a journalist's role who can sort of piece together disparate elements and bring in the facts to light comes in. And therefore, I just want to put again on record that not all journalists are, sensational or deliberately misleading people. There have been very good journalists before me. There will be good journalists after me. But it's been a great journey in journalism. And now, as an author, I feel that some of those strengths as part of being a journalist do come in handy when one writes this kind of a book. But I want to ask Mr. Umranikar, who's also been part of the R&AW and later part of the organization. And of course to both of you, but let me first ask him, because you came back from R&AW and back into Maharashtra Police. Now this is a criticism that is being leveled against the government time and again, that you are not allowing people to get absorbed, or people go and it's become a revolving door as far as R&AW is concerned. From IPS, people go to the R&AW and they come back to IPS. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Should it happen like that? Or should we have the old system which was there where RAS, the R&AW Administrative Service, correct me if I am wrong on that, was started where people were directly recruited by R&AW in the 70s, in the first 2-3 batches. What is your view on that?
Well, as I said, this is going to be only my personal view. Well, Mr. KAO was building an empire at that time. So he needed some good hostages from the bureaucracy. And that's how probably you find that the first 13 that were chosen, I mean, the IPS officers used to call them dirty dozen plus. All of them were related to some secretary rank officer or a general who were, I would say, well established. But I think that was a deliberate attempt, as I said, because the organization was expanding very fast. And Mr. KAO needed support of everyone who could support him in this cause. And that created some kind of imbalance in the organization. I'm not saying this because I'm from Indian Police Service, but one could see that some of them were good, most of them were not. And that created a lot of imbalance in the organization and especially in the operational matters, especially because it started a rivalry within, where both the sides were trying to be one up on each other and trying to show each other down. So I would say probably in retrospect, they could have had a more regular type of recruitment which was acceptable to everybody. We went through the rigors of UPSC system. They went through no rigors, I would say, except they went through their uncles and aunts. So this was something which hurt us. And like I said, after spending 20 years, no one would have returned to Maharashtra. And I was one of the permanently seconded types because they chose me and they said, you continue in R&AW. But then when it came to losing my service, they said, join RAS, we'll send you to Moscow. That eternal bait which they had. I said, I'm not going to Moscow, I'm going to Maharashtra. So I think it was not very wise, although I understand why it was done.
Right. Mr. Balachandran, if you can tell us.
I have a slightly different view on this.
That's right.
You see, I also had the option of coming back to Maharashtra, or rather, I could have had. I was one of the youngest in the service, and I remember Sushil Kumar Shinde meeting me in San Francisco once and saying that we are looking for you to come back to as Commissioner of Police Mumbai and the DG and all that. I said, look, I have no intention of coming back. I'm going to stay in RAW.
Right.
See, when you look around the world, you will find that in no country, the foreign intelligence service, except in, say, maybe communist countries or some other countries, no, we see US, Israel, England, and European service, etc., the foreign intelligence is totally separate. We haven't adopted that system at all. Now, and in most of the countries, now Israel, for example, till very recently, it was always again relations and acquaintances. That why? Because of loyalty.
That's right.
There was no open recruitment. There was no public recruitment at all. The same thing is in MI6 also. MI6 also, there is not a single deputationist who goes from police and do that. Same thing in CIA.
Right.
They are taken straight from the market, and there is no federal recruitment commission at all for them.
Right.
So, but we are a bit orthodox in that way. We feel that the UPSC should recruit people, but the problem is now I've handled this particular problem. If supposing now Pakistan wants or any other country wants to dig into our service list, all they have to do is to go
On the net and get it.
and UPSC will find our background.
Right.
In order to prevent that, that is why the RAS was started as a future, that the senior people would be only through direct recruitment. And in USA, for example, half the recruits to the CIA are going into what they call, unofficial cover.
Right.
Unofficial cover means you will never know. They will not even report to Langley, and even for their pay.
Right.
Now, if you just give me 1 minute, I'll tell you.
Please.
One case
All the
came.
time.
One case came in President Bush Jr.'s time. But there was a lady called, forget her name. Her husband was Ambassador Wilson. Ambassador Wilson, after retirement, went to Africa. They wanted to explode this. The reason why President Bush Jr. started the second Iraq war.
Right.
It was said at that time that from Niger, the uranium was coming to Iraq,
Right.
and he was about to fabricate a bomb. So he exploded this.
Yes.
This particular thing in writing in that, and that became very embarrassing. So what happened was that his wife was working in a non-official cover post in a Belgian nuclear energy research institute, lifetime.
That's right.
And because of that, Cheney's vice president was Robert Cheney. His assistant, a fellow called Scooter Libby, he exposed her identity.
This lady, yeah.
And that is an offense in the US, and he was prosecuted, etc., etc. So this type of thing happens. Half of them are totally, you will not even know anything about them. So that is how a successful foreign intelligence agency should be sort of run.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, due to so many reasons, maybe because of administrative incompetence or whatever it is, it did not happen in India. But I think we should do that.
That's right.
We should not take people from the organized
Only from
services.
the, yeah. So, no, that's true. I mean, in fact, I'll just read out a very quick, small 2 sentences. When Mrs. Gandhi wanted the Foreign Intelligence Service to be set up, following the debacle in 1962 and then the 1965 war where intelligence was shown up to be inadequate against Pakistan, and then, of course, China, she and P.N. Huxer and KAO actually created this organization. And there she said that, where I write, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had given him a free hand except for 2 conditions. Firstly, the new organization should be a multidisciplinary one and should not draw its higher personnel exclusively from the IPS. Secondly, she said the top 2 posts would be filled at the discretion of the Prime Minister from within the organization or from outside. That's how she actually gave the mandate to...
That Mr. KAO also told me
Yes.
that there were only 2
Conditions.
conditions.
Yeah, that's right.
One is that don't structure it as a central police organization. Now, I'm very proud of my police service. I like police service. In fact, when I was deputed to RAW, I did not like it because I liked uniform service. But I find that, you see, there is a world of difference. You, as I mentioned to you,
Yeah.
from a very high profile post, I had to,
You had to go
sink
anonymous.
into-
Yeah, yeah.
And another thing is that in police, you are, like in the army, you are asked to project your personality.
That's right.
Your ability to command. Here it's not. You're to go, and as Stella Remington said in her biography, she was the
MI5.
first MI5
Yeah.
chief, saying that the most successful intelligence officers are the dullest, what apparently will look like a dullest officer.
That's right.
Or man.
Exactly. So that's how Mr. KAO was. So one final...
Not that we are all dull. Huh?
Well, one final thing about him is what I'll mention, and then I think we'll start question answers, and Mr. Umbranikar can moderate that, or I can sort of control that. A lot of people said, what is it one distinguishing feature about Mr. KAO that you came across when they asked me, a lot of people have asked me in your research. So I said that there are many facets to his personality which I've brought out, tried to bring out, and I keep mentioning this, although Mr. Balachandran has been very generous in his praise. This is not a history book. This is not about R&AW's history. It's neither a crime thriller nor a complete biography of Mr. KAO, because, like he said, he actually dictated his memoirs in 90s, and then one of his fans in the Foreign Service transcribed it. 7 files were made, starting with his childhood memories right up to the assassination of Mrs. Gandhi in 1984. 3 of those files, and very crucial files. So one on the Sikkim, what India calls merger, India's adversaries call it annexation. The Bangladesh operations of 71 and Mrs. Gandhi's assassination, the details of it, which he knew, and the conspiracies that were there, those files are still classified until 2027. He said they will be opened on 25 years after my death. He passed away in January 2002, so it will be 2027. I hope to update this book then, once I get access to them in Nehru Memorial Library in maybe another 7 years later. But that apart, one sentence is stuck. I don't remember who said this about him. One of the R&AW officers, ex-officers, who said that while the senior lot in every organization is loyal to the political executive or the political leadership, Mr. KAO was loyal to his subordinates. I think that summed up the man as far as KAO is concerned. So on that note, I think I will end this thing, and then we'll do the question answers.
I have a couple of questions, and then I'm sure that you all are very keen to listen to General Naravani sir as well. So please raise your hand. I know we are in Pune. I know what you have to say is very, very important, but please ask a brief question, and you would have an answer. Thank you so much. Just raise hand, and I'll direct the question.
Good morning, sir. First of all, I will congratulate Naravani sir for being COS, and my question is it's a combined question to Mr. Balachandran, Mr. Umbranikar sir, and Mr. Gokhale, that what were the negative effects on R&AW operations after the implementation of Gujral doctrine by former PM I.K. Gujral?
There was no Gujral doctrine in that way. You see, as far as I know. By that time I had retired, so I could not see anything that is at least published openly, except some comments from others. Now, let me go back to 1977. Mr. Morarji Desai, when he was reviewing the activities of RAW, he felt he was a great moralist. He didn't want any immoral thing to be done by the intelligence agencies. So he put a stop to certain activities that we were doing to extract information. But when it was explained to him by Mr. Santuk who was known to him, and he said, look, there are certain things which we have to do to get information which are not available openly. Then he allowed, and especially after the Anand March started killing his own people and all that in Australia. They put a bomb on this hotel where he was supposed to have stayed. Gujarat also wanted to emphasize the good neighborly relations. This is my impression, but as I said, I was not in the service. Maybe Jayant may be able to say because he was in service at that time. As far as I know, he only said that offensive operations against the trends of being friendly with certain countries. In Pakistan, Bangladesh was also that is not so friendly. We should not give emphasis on that. But, on the one track, Gujarat was trying to have normalized relations, friendly relations, etc. Those activities should not be disrupted by your offensive operations. That's all what I understand. I will leave it to Jayant to answer your question.
Well, I like to quote from somebody else's book. So now I'm quoting Nitin. In his book, he has said, indiscreet political leaders are indeed a bane of intelligence agencies. It's very easy to say that you stop your offensive operations, but operations are not like a light switch. When you want, you put it on. When you don't want, you put it off. And there's a certain continuity. And if you discontinue an operation, it's extremely difficult to restart. So Gujarat Doctrine definitely came as a handicap. It was like boxing with one hand tied behind. I mean, that's the shortest answer I can give.
I'll just say one sentence in the same vein as both of them have said. Intelligence agencies, by their very nature, have to be secretive, and they're more known by their failures, while their successes cannot be publicized. I think that is the dilemma that the intelligence agencies face.
Normally, our success is publicized in Dawn, Pakistan Times.
Exactly. No, that's true. So,
on daily basis.
On a daily basis, and therefore, in fact, larger than life image of R&AW is in Pakistan, I suppose, more than in India. So I think one final question we have to take.
Yeah. So, come this side, please. Come middle and ask.
The mic is coming to you.
Thank you for a fascinating conversation. I have a question on declassification of this information. Is it not in public interest that we have an official history of 62, 71, and researchers other than Nitin Gokhale, who are students, researchers, non-politicians, are aware access to this information? And now with Googles of the world and technologies, should we not open it to the general public so that the demystification happens? I agree completely with the fact that obviously we are not putting it in public domain, but for someone interested like me, and there are thousands of others who want to know how the country is run, as a democratic citizen of the country, we want to know, we want to get interested in it. Is it time for us to be a little more open about the operations within the country, outside the country, so that there is more awareness? What's your view on that?
I totally agree with you. In fact, I have been, in my writing, I have also been saying that there should be a proper declassification policy by our government. Unfortunately, we have not done that. We have been releasing certain papers, but withholding certain things. Now, you see, in all other countries, even Russia has thrown their archives open as long as you can do the translation. Now, there is one national security archives run by George Washington University. If you go into that, you will find a number of Russian documents being translated into English and then published. So when they are open like this, why can't we do that? Because then the interpretation of history will be much more accurate. Right now, what we are doing is that we are depending upon leaks and inaccurate information to form judgment on how a situation has been tackled. So when I left, actually not, when I went on a special assignment in 1990, 12 volumes. I have been writing about it since 2003. 12 volumes of the Raw's role in Bangladesh operations. Mr. KAO had engaged a military historian called Colonel Longer. He sort of wrote history along with his team, and that was in the personal custody of the senior most staff officer of the Chief of RAW, which I happened to be between 1986 and 1990. When I was transferred, or rather when I went on special assignment, I handed over to Mr. Raman, who succeeded me. I've been inquiring all these years from 1996, what happened to these files? Nobody seems to know. So that is the tragedy. I mean, I'm saying that in this particular thing I mentioned in the obituary of Mr. KAO. Had we known this, by now people like Nitin and others would have known what actually happened, what is the Raw's version of 1971. I agree with you totally.
I would just add something. There's another chapter which is very interesting from historical point of view and the role of intelligence agencies, and that is the army attack on Golden Temple. Again, I remember Mr. Raman mentioning that there's a very extensive work which nobody knows where it is now. But basically it brings out how Mrs. Gandhi was forced to do it in spite of trying to avoid it for a very long time, and in spite of engaging in some kind of dialogue with the extremists at that time. Because I was with Mr. Raman, he had told me a few things. It seems that she thought that now there is no option, and that's why it was undertaken. It's not as if she was trigger happy and she wanted to crush the militancy and things like that.
So one final thing, since you asked about it, this has been debated elsewhere. Even the Henderson Brooks report, which is we have tried, couple of us journalists, me, Sandeep Nitin, others. We've actually done RTI, and people have hated us for that in the establishment, for doing the RTI, that why can't you declassify it? Because like you, we also want to know, since we are interested in it. Unfortunately, there is no uniform policy. The MEA, for instance, has started declassifying. In fact, they have also started a new project called Oral History. So a lot of the people who were in controversial circumstances in, say, Yugoslavia, USSR, all those diplomats are now being interviewed by their younger lot, or some team has been deputed. They are recording their memories. They're not papers, but they're memories. So for instance, when this OIC thing happened, or the Organization of Islamic Countries thing happened, it came a full circle, and we could know about it because in 1969, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad had led a team of Indian team to Rabat in Morocco, and India was an invitee in the inaugural conference of the OIC, which you would know. And then, of course, India was told to go because Yahya Khan insisted that I will not speak. I am the largest Islamic country. All that happened, but it came full circle when India became an honored guest in the latest OIC conference. But we would not have known about that incident had the ambassador of India at that point in time in Rabat not been recorded by the MEA. So maybe that is the other compromise one can do. Without revealing the papers, oral history can come in there. Some project can be taken up there. But that's all I think I was.
Just one line. Mr. KAO had started a historical division.
He did.
And it was continued during Moraji's time. Otherwise, I mean, he had every intention of recording things and keeping them for the posterity.
Yeah. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know that there will be more questions because such is the discussion. I know for sure answers to some of those are in the book. And for more, I'm sure you would connect with Nitin after this program as well outside. And we'll request Nitin to hang around for a few minutes after the program to do that. Now, here's the moment that many of us are eagerly awaiting for, to listen to General Naravne sir. May I now request General Naravne sir to please address the gathering.
Good afternoon, everyone. And it is indeed a great pleasure to be here. Not least because to escape the cold of Delhi and be in the salubrious crimes of Pune. And for that, I must thank Nitin. Many of y'all might be wondering as to what a person in uniform is doing at the launch of a book on intelligence. But actually, military operations and intelligence go hand in hand. In fact, whenever we have an operational briefing, it always starts with khabar dushman ke bare mein. And that khabar dushman ke bare mein is what we get from our intelligence operatives. And I dare say that none of our military operations would have been successful had it not been for the support we have gone from various agencies, including the R&AW. So I think we owe it to them from the armed forces to acknowledge the contribution that they have made to our nation's security. When we talk or think intelligence, we normally think James Bond. Guns, girls, guitars, glamour. But as has been brought out, the world of intelligence is not that. The world of intelligence is more like John le Carre's Smiley's people. Unseen, unheard, unknown, working behind the scenes. And as Mr. Balachandran said, plodding through volumes of information, but not being plodders. And while going through those volumes of information and data and reports and returns, to have that intellectual capacity to piece together the nuggets of information that make up the entire jigsaw puzzle. And I think that is where this book on Mr. R&AW aptly brings out that that was what he was all about. He worked behind the scenes tirelessly, as I said, mostly unheard, unknown, and this book has brought him to life for us. In doing so, I must also compliment Nitin that he has written this book in a very simple style. And the style of the writing has actually brought out the persona of the individual. Both have gone hand in hand. And I think that is, as Nitin mentioned himself, it had been given to somebody else, it might have been made into a pot boiler. But that was not the intent. The character of the man and the style in which the book has been written actually complement each other. I will leave it at that, and I'll thank you all once again, and Nitin, to have given me this opportunity to be here with you in Pune on this occasion of the launch of this book. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, General Sir. Before I start my vote of thanks, I'll just add a line or two about the book, Nitin. When Nitin gave us a copy, he did mention that it should be read faster than he wrote, and some of us tried doing that. But as General Sir mentioned, the style of writing was so accessible that it just took 2 or 3 sittings, even for me. So that shows what it means for all of you. As Nitin mentioned earlier, from page 128 onwards, there's some very nice pictures and some of these documents that are here. It was, for the first time, some of us saw what it meant, or the kind of communication that came from the Whitehall, that's in London, to the newly appointed police officer. To what kind of document would a police officer have written as India got independence and they moved on? We heard about Bangabandhu and the involvement, but to see a photograph of them sitting with the family, kind of, even for some of us who haven't necessarily worked in any of the uniformed services, right, kind of brings the connect. To know of his growth in the early days and the difficulties that he faced, right, makes many of us feel our own difficulty is kind of nothing is compared to what some of these achievers have had, and it wasn't with silver spoon, you know. So some of those very interesting lessons that even those of us who haven't worked in services could kind of pick up from these. And as Bala sir was mentioning, it's interesting about lesson in communication as well. As he mentioned about DIG from Madhya Pradesh discussing, that's on page 33 in the book. It very nicely talks about how he responded to it. So many lessons to pick up because it's very accessible to read. We're going to request Nitin to stay around for a bit so that some of you would want to pick up the copy can pick up and request Nitin to take his autograph. There's a promise, Nitin, we had made to ourselves internally that this got to be a bit bigger than what happens around Lodi Estate. You know? So we attended your event around Lodi Estate. I was there coincidentally in Delhi. And the only promise we had to ourselves in PIC team is it's got to be a bit bigger. It's thanks to all of these people who attended it. And that's Pune. पुण्यातल्या चोखंदळ वाचकांनी श्रोत्यांनी पुण्यातल्या चोखंदळ वाचकांनी श्रोत्यांनी नेहमीच पुण्यातली इव्हेंट त्यातल्या त्यात जी पुस्तकांबाबत आहे ती अशीच बनवलेली आहे ज्यात की त्यांचं भरपूर इन्व्हॉल्वमेंट राहिलेलं आहे. आम्हाला आनंद आहे दिल्लीमध्ये आणि इतर ठिकाणी सुद्धा फार चांगली इव्हेंट झाली व्हावी. बट पुणे वुड कंटिन्यू टू काइंड ऑफ डू व्हॉट दे डू. Couple of minutes for my vote of thanks and then we'll conclude the program. Once again, a huge round of applause to General Naravne sir for kindly agreeing to come. General sir, it's very special because we had General Rawat sir here, very much at the same stage, same place, same seat. We kind of requested him to release the previous book of Nitin, and it's great to have you here. It's also great to have you to put it on in our own commoners language. Since the announcement that happened in Delhi, to have you here as one of the first public functions, to have you amongst all of us here, and to listen to you has been very special for all of us sitting here in the audience today. We must thank Bala sir, who has been a prolific writer himself, and somebody who made this book possible as Nitin has written in it. And hence, thanks for coming and sharing your perspectives, sir. Thank you to Umranikar, sir. Yes, the penalty clause continues. There's none. Thanks to Umranikar, sir. Somebody who's been in Pune for last few years, somebody who has achieved so much and contributed so much. It's kind of a bit unfortunate that given the nature of the job, you will not be able to ask all the questions and get all the info. But suffice to know that we are amidst the people who have contributed so much in the national security. Request General Mr. Umranikar sir to give a tiny token of appreciation on behalf of all of you to General Naravne sir. That's Pune. And we'll also request Umranikar sir to give one of these to Bala sir as our guest to Pune. Bala sir. I must thank friends from media because it's thanks to them that the messages of such program reach out to many people who couldn't be here among the 250, 300 of us here in the auditorium today. I must thank the director of COEP, who kind of made the adjustments that they made with our last-minute request for this auditorium. Thank you so much, Ahuja sir and his team. I must thank team PIC because it's thanks to my colleagues in PIC team that all of this happens. So thank you so much. The last but not the least, thank you to each and every one of you for coming here. And before I forget, many thanks to the staff of Southern Command and GOCNC's office, because thanks to them we could very smoothly conduct this and organize this. With that, if I missed anyone, my apologies. Thank you so much for coming here and making this event a special one. With a round applause, we'll conclude the program today. Thank you.